Trump's spiritual advisor resigns amid allegations he molested 12-year-old. MAGA will not talk about this story, and the right-wing media refuses to cover it. So Pastor Robert Morris, who owns a megachurch in Texas and who was the spiritual advisor to the Donald Trump White House, resigned from his pastor role today after allegations came out that he sexually abused a 12-year-old girl in the 1980s. And Robert Morris confirmed the allegations for us, and in typical MAGA fashion, he tries to downplay what he did. And keep in mind, Republicans will not stop yapping about how Democrats are pedophiles or how we enable pedophilia, yet they conveniently will ignore this story. So this article reads, Texas megachurch pastor Robert Morris, who Donald Trump once named as a spiritual advisor to his administration, announced he was stepping down from Gateway Church amid allegations he molested a 12-year-old girl in the 1980s. The resignation comes days after Morris, 62, seemingly admitted to molesting the girl in a statement to the Christian Post. In that statement, he conceded that he engaged in, quote, inappropriate sexual behavior with a, quote, young lady when he was already married with a child in his early 20s. Morris didn't mention the girl's age, but his alleged victim, Sydney Clemishire, told the religious watchdog blog, The Wartburg Watch, on Friday that she was only 12 when she was first sexually abused by Morris on Christmas Day in 1982. She claimed that he invited her into the room he was staying in at her family home during a visit and touched her inappropriately on her breasts and, quote, under her panties. Morris ordered her to keep quiet about the molestation, quote, because it will ruin everything, Clemishire told the publication. The abuse allegedly continued for 4 years before the teenager confided in a close friend, which prompted Morris's wife to learn about what took place. That forced Morris to briefly step down from the ministry, but the nitty-gritty details of what took place were never made public until now. Quote, it was kissing and petting and not intercourse, but it was wrong, Morris said of the relationship to the Christian Post. That line right there is incredibly weird to me. He said it was kissing and petting and not intercourse, but it was wrong. Like, that first statement would somehow give us the impression that it wasn't wrong. It sounds like he still has a way to justify it in his head years later, or he's stuck in the 1980s. The article continues, upon returning to the pulpit, Morris gained a large following as a preacher and apparently caught the eye of Trump, who named him to a spiritual advisory board in 2016. Honestly, if Donald Trump knew about the allegations, he would probably like Morris even more. The article finishes, Morris's now former church, located just outside Fort Worth, has over 100,000 attendees each weekend, it claims on its website. And what's incredibly rich about this is I'm sure that a lot of these attendees, if they are hardcore evangelical Christians, think that Democrats or that gay people or that trans people are the ones who are pedophiles, but the call is coming from inside the house. They go to a church every single weekend where the person that they listen to genuinely sexually abuses young people, and this has been a widespread, a repeated pattern with pastors, as I'm sure you guys know. Like, nobody does not know about this stuff. The Washington Post goes into more detail. They say, the resignation of Robert Morris, founder and senior pastor at Gateway Church, was accepted by the church's board of elders. In a statement, the board said it is, quote, heartbroken and appalled by the allegations raised by Sydney Clemishire, who was 12 when the alleged abuse began in 1982. The church said it hired a law firm to investigate the allegations. Quote, regretfully, before Friday, June 14th, the elders did not have all the facts of the inappropriate relationship between Morris and the victim, including her age at the time and the length of the abuse, the board said, adding that the elders had known about an extramarital relationship but thought it was with a young lady. I don't know, that makes it a lot worse that they knew about this but didn't say anything. For the sake of the victim, we are thankful the situation has been exposed, the board added. Morris's name was removed from the church's webpage, listing its leadership late Monday, and his son James is now listed as the church's senior leader. In a statement, Clemishire, now 54, said that while she is grateful that Morris is no longer a pastor at Gateway, she is disappointed that he was not terminated. She also disputed the board's assertion that it had not been aware of her age at the time of the alleged abuse, saying she had told a church official and a board member details of the events in 2005 and 2007. That makes me incredibly sick, and I absolutely believe Clemishire that she told them in the past, even almost 2 decades ago. We have seen this so many times where the Pope or powerful pastors at churches will cover up the sexual abuse that their priests and pastors have committed. It is a systemic problem at the Catholic Church, and I'm going to point out one more time the hypocrisy of Republicans genuinely not understanding that and deciding to project and blame Democrats and attack LGBTQ people. When I was covering the caucuses in Ohio, I went to a bunch of MAGA events and I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene speak once, unfortunately, and she said this verbatim: "The Democratic Party is the party of pedophiles." The article continues, quote, "Gateway had the information but intentionally decided to embrace the false narrative Robert Morris wanted them to believe," Clemishire said. Again, I totally believe her when she says that. "The Board of Elders didn't reply to a request for comment Tuesday night, nor did the law firm hired by the board to investigate the alleged abuses, Haynes and Boone. Morris was among a group of evangelical pastors and leaders who served on an unofficial faith advisory group for the Trump administration. The group, whose members fluctuated, would come to the White House for briefings and pose with Trump for photos. While their actual influence on policy wasn't clear, the public images were powerful for conservative Christians who had felt unseen by previous presidents. Trump was among a roundtable of top White House officials in 2020 at Gateway, where he called Morris and another church leader, quote, great people with a great reputation." Have you ever noticed that Donald Trump will repeatedly call people nasty people, terrible, awful people, but whenever it is a friend of his who turns out to be a pedophile, he downplays it? He did the same thing with Ghislaine Maxwell. He said, "I wish her well," after calling Hillary Clinton a nasty woman. And this part will just blow your mind and enrage you. We already have MAGA supporters playing defense and justifying what Robert Morris did. This tweet reads, "This woman is a founder and pastor of Weatherford Church. She excuses Robert Morris in a public Facebook post." And the public Facebook post reads, "I want people to not judge Robert Morris because of a mistake he made over 30 years ago. Some young girls at 12 years old are very beautiful and sexy." What in the hell am I reading? "They don't understand how men are made, and young men don't understand their actions are used by the devil to ruin the future God has for them. Other godly men have been distracted by Satan. That's why older men need to mentor young men." That is an even worse idea. Please do not have more older pastors mentoring young men. "Young men don't realize how Satan will try to destroy their futures with their families and ministries." Again, this woman is a founder and pastor of a church, and she is saying stuff like this. It is a systemic problem. If a young girl came up to her and said, "Hey, one of the pastors at your church abused me," I can almost guarantee that this lady would try to cover it up and let it go. People on Twitter are saying hashtag "we found the groomers," because again, Republicans will constantly call left-wing people groomers. They call teachers groomers. They call LGBTQ people groomers. But when there is an actual pedophile who sexually assaulted women, it is justified because some young girls at 12 years old are very beautiful and sexy, according to Barbara Phillips' Little page. It is wild. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment a blue heart if you made it this far. I read all of the comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and have a great day.